What's the most painful thing you've ever seen on a baseball field? Is it this? Or this? Maybe this. In my opinion, there's no question what the answer is. It's this. Let's talk about it.
That, well, it was nearly impossible to find any place where people weren't buzzing about it today. We are talking about the missed call in Detroit.
There is no doubt about it. Donald is out. I saw my first 28 out perfect game tonight. There you go.
Ground ball, right side, Cabrera, coming off, Galarraga, got it!
Umpire Jim Joyce called the runner safe on what was clearly an out.
Why is he safe?
Jim Joyce is driving from Detroit to Toledo. It's not a long trip, just 50 miles of road along the side of Lake Erie. This late at night, it only takes him about 45 minutes. Joyce didn't turn on the radio when he left work tonight. He doesn't check social media either, at the request of his wife. Of course, the 54-year-old umpire doesn't log on much anyway. Were he to do so, Joyce would have learned that he is, in fact, the most hated man in baseball. But then again, he already knew that. Back in Detroit, Armando Galarraga is having a burger. He's celebrating, if that's the right word for it, with a post-game meal at Sonic. He's talked to more reporters tonight than ever before in his life. For now, he's happy just to enjoy his food. Cut to today. It's been over a decade since that night. Enough time to look at this moment with fresh eyes. What happened in the lead-up to this play? What could have happened to change it? And what happened in Jim Joyce's head on that night, in that split-second decision that made all the difference? Let's find out. The Tigers are at home. They're facing one of the worst Cleveland teams in years. Detroit isn't too hot either. They've dropped 8 of their last 10, so maybe it's no surprise that attendance tonight is the second lowest of any home game this year. Nobody's paying any attention to this game. The baseball world is focused right now on Seattle, where Ken Griffey Jr. has just announced his retirement after 22 years. As people wonder what a league without the kid will be like, Armando Galarraga retires Trevor Crow for the first out. The fans who did show up tonight offer some scattered applause. This seems like as good a time as any to shout out today's sponsor, Raycon. Now, you might be asking, is he pausing here just to talk about how Raycon's everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound amazing? About how they offer 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life? And about how they have an optimized gel tip for the perfect in-ear fit? The answer is yes, obviously, because they're really good earbuds. I have Raycon earbuds in pretty much all the time. When I'm working out, when I'm watching baseball, when I'm cleaning, when I'm watching baseball, when I'm taking my very real and totally not fake dog for a walk. Oh, and also I use them when I'm watching baseball. School's also back in session, which means Raycon is having their annual back-to-school sale. For a limited time, you can get 20% off across the whole site, plus free shipping. Raycon also put together a deal just for you guys. If you click the link in this video's description, not only will you save 20% on your order, not only will you get free shipping, but you'll also be supporting this channel and allowing me to make more videos like this. So go to buyraycon.com/bbh for 20% off plus free shipping. If you know the name Armando Galarraga, odds are it's because of the imperfect game. And that's fair, considering his other biggest claim to fame is a 4th place finish for the 2008 Rookie of the Year. His career numbers place him solidly in the territory of pretty okay. He was on 4 different teams over 6 years and was out of MLB by the age of 30. If it weren't for this one game, he'd probably be remembered like other similar players. You know, fan favorites like Jeff Juden, Mike Thurman, Lucas Harrell. I could go on. At the same time, there's a lot more to Armando Galarraga than just one play. Galarraga is from Venezuela, where the Expos signed him in 1998 for $3,000. He spent 7 years in the Montreal farm system, but it was clear by 2005 that Armando was no longer part of the team's long-term plans. With a new home, a new name, and a new look. They were reinventing themselves. And they wanted to do it with, you guessed it, Alfonso Soriano. Soriano was an all-star. He also had 1 year left on his contract with Texas, so Washington folded Galarraga into a package deal. The Rangers accepted, and that season saw Soriano become the first ever member of the 40-40-40 club. The Nats finished in last place anyway. Galarraga debuted for the Rangers in 2007, only to be traded to the Tigers 5 months later, while on his honeymoon. He started 28 games the next year, joining one of the most interesting Tigers rotations in recent history. He finished with 13 wins and struck out 126. He didn't throw too hard, but was able to get batters out with an effective slider. He used the pitch nearly 39% of the time, the highest in baseball by far. It worked too. Batters hit a league-low 236 on balls in play against him. Entering 2009, Jim Leyland picked Galarraga to start Detroit's home opener. In front of a sold-out stadium, Armando faced the Rangers for 7 innings. He held his former team to just 1 run, striking out 8 on the way to his first win of the season. It was also the highlight of that year for Galarraga. He went just 5-10 in his other starts. His ERA ballooned to 5.64, and he finished the month of September pitching out of the bullpen. Detroit finished second in the division, losing a heartbreaking, extra-inning, 1-game playoff to the Minnesota Twins. 2010 has been make or break for both Galarraga and the Tigers. Detroit made some big moves this winter, acquiring top prospect Austin Jackson in a 3-way deal with the Yankees and the Diamondbacks. This trade also brought in first-round pick Max Scherzer to join an upgraded pitching staff. If the Tigers were hopeful, Galarraga started the season on a less promising note. He threw just 7 spring training innings in total before being demoted to AAA in March. It wasn't until mid-May that he made his first appearance. Max Scherzer was also in the minors at the time, and the club was hoping to bring him in for the May 30th game against Oakland. That made Galarraga the odd man out, with many expecting him to be sent back down to make room. But Armando was safe for the time being. The Tigers traded Dontrelle Willis instead, for pitcher Billy Buckner. No, not that Bill Buckner. No, that's Billy Butler. That's Billy Bean. That's Mr. Bean. And that's just a bunch of beans. Where was I? Oh yeah, so Dontrelle Willis has been traded for a pile of beans, and Galarraga is pitching now instead. He's doing a decent job of it, but it's a small sample size so far. Shin-Soo Choo pulls a ground ball up the first baseline, sending MIguel Cabrera away from the bag. Cabrera connects with Galarraga to complete the play. As the camera pans away, first base umpire Jim Joyce raises his fist to signal out. Knowing an umpire by name is not usually a good thing. Take Angel Hernandez, who's more disliked by MLB fans than rain delays. Or Joe West, who players have named the worst in the league on more than one occasion. Or you could bring up Don Denkinger, who served for 30 seasons, yet is mostly known for the biggest blown call in World Series history. And on that note, let's get back to Jim Joyce. Joyce has been an MLB umpire for almost as long as Galarraga has been alive. At this point, he's mostly known for 2 things: his strike call, and for being one of the most respected officials in the game. He pitched for Bowling Green State in college before moving to Florida for umpire school. He started doing minor league games, and in 1987, Joyce was promoted to the big leagues. He'd stay there for the next 30 years.
I'm sure you're pleased to see James Joyce as the third base umpire. When the players arrive at the hot corner, they can discuss Ulysses with him.
By the time he retires, Jim will have been on the field for over 3,000 games. In 2011, Sports Illustrated will ask players who the best ump in the game is. Joyce wins by a landslide. That's all in the future, though. For now, he's in Detroit, calling the last out of the top of the first. The second inning is even smoother for Galarraga. He sits down the 4, 5, 6 hitters in order, not letting the ball leave the infield. Well, except for this one time. That's probably going to be the most memorable thing that happens to that kid today. Cabrera leads off the Tigers' half with a solo shot, the only run Detroit will score for the next 6 innings. The top of the third is where we first meet Jason Donald, one of the other major characters in this tale. Donald is a rookie, having been called up in May to replace an injured Asdrubal Cabrera. This is his 15th career game. He's the 9-hitter on a last-place team, so nobody's expecting much. He'll also be the toughest out in this lineup tonight. Donald sends an 0-1 fastball down the right field line. If it drops for a hit, the perfect game will be over before it even gets the chance to begin. There's no drama, no tears, no story at all. Fortunately, the ball falls a foot into foul territory. It's an 0-2 count. Donald rolls over on a slider and ends the inning instead. He's able to force a bang-bang play at first, but Jim Joyce is there to make the call. The fourth inning has 2 things I'd like to note. The first is this shout out to the slow-mo camera.
All those slow motion replays, of course, are courtesy of Lincoln Mercury, which is a really nice vehicle.
The second thing is this at-bat by Shin-Soo Choo. See, Galarraga will throw 76% of his pitches for strikes tonight. Of the 28 batters he faces, only one will reach a 3-ball count. He's in control of his stuff in a way that he's never been before, which makes it a perfect time to yank a fastball into the left-handed batter's box. Now, Shin-Soo Choo is good at getting hit. Not getting hits, although he's good at that too. I mean getting hit, like by pitches. He just misses another one here though, jumping out of the way at the last second. The perfect game continues, and Choo flies out to Jackson in center. We move along into the fifth, which features one of the more underrated plays I think I've seen. That's a ground ball off of Galarraga's foot, ricocheting towards a perfectly positioned Brandon Inge, who then scoops it and throws it to Cabrera to nail Russell Branyan at first. But, as the announcer notes, it's just been that kind of night for Armando Galarraga. It takes him only 25 pitches to get through the next 3 frames. The only point anyone comes close to a hit is when Jason Donald, of course, drives a fly ball to right into the glove of Maglio Ordonez. The 8th inning ends with a slow ground out to the infield, Galarraga's bread and butter tonight. As he walks off the mound, the crowd of 17,000 gives him a standing ovation. We return from commercial break to find Armando alone in the dugout. As the Tigers try one last time to provide run support, he patiently waits for the bottom half of the inning. This is a situation where it would probably be better for Detroit to go down quickly. Galarraga is still warm, and a rally might pose a threat to his momentum. At the same time, they still have a game to win, and a 1-run lead is very easy to lose. Cleveland starter Roberto Hernandez sits down the first 2 easily. Hernandez, or Fausto Carmona as he's known at the moment, has been impressive in his own right tonight, and he's an out away from a strong, 8-inning, 1-run performance. Austin Jackson extends the frame with a single, bringing up left fielder Johnny Damon. Damon fouls one away, into the hands of yet another, young fan. He sends the next pitch back up the middle, past a leaping Hernandez. Jason Donald fields it easily and lobs it to first. Damon is booking it, however, and beats out the throw. He's safe at first, at least according to Jim Joyce. The slow motion video, courtesy of Lincoln Mercury, isn't conclusive. According to MLB rules, the first baseman is considered in possession as soon as the ball touches his glove. And if you consider this to be touching, then Damon is clearly out. If you don't though, and you think this is when the ball first touches glove, then Damon is safe. Either way, there's nothing to be done. Replay review won't be expanded to calls like this for another 4 years, which means that instead of making the last out, Damon is on base when Maglio Ordonez hits a 2-run single to right field. This brings the lead to 3-0. Before, a solo home run could have tied the game. Now that Galarraga has a cushion, however, he has room to focus on the historic nature of the moment. Not that that's a good thing. The bottom of the 9th starts off with Mark Grudzelanek. There we go. Anyway, Mark G jumps on a sinker down the middle, driving it to deep left center. The crowd groans as they watch the ball fly toward the fence. Now they say every no-hitter has to have one iconic, game-saving play. You know, Steven Souza Jr., Gregor Blanco, Dwayne Wise. One moment, probably late in the game, to preserve history. There have been a few contenders so far, but tonight it belongs to Austin Jackson.
Oh, Jackson!
You'd think that at this point, Galarraga might be a little nervous. I mean, it's not like you could blame him. Everyone else in the building is practically shaking. But with the way that he's smiling, these last few outs seem almost inevitable. Another ground ball to short. Out number 2. Up comes Jason Donald for the 3rd time tonight. The first pitch is a strike. The second, a ball. Donald steps out to tighten his batting gloves. Catcher Alex Avila calls for a slider, low and away. Galarraga hits his spot and gets just what he's looking for, a grounder to the infield. This is how the play opens up. Galarraga breaks for the bag as MIguel Cabrera ranges to his right. The second baseman pulls behind him in case the ball gets by. Cabrera makes a backhand grab, plants his foot, and whips it to the pitcher. Galarraga catches the ball, his foot lands on the bag. So does Jason Donald's, a fraction of a second later. Galarraga looks at the ball in his glove, as if to make sure that it hasn't vanished. Once he's satisfied that it's still there, he lifts it up to show the umpire. And you know what happens next. Watching this play out in real time, the first thing that strikes me is just how fast all of it happens. I've seen it slowed down so many times at this point, paused and dissected like the Zapruder film, that to watch it like it actually happened feels sped up. The second thing is the lack of reaction from Joyce. He makes the call, lowers his arms, and then just stands there. He doesn't walk away. He doesn't ask the other umpires if he made the right call. He stands there and he waits for someone, anyone else, to make the next move. Maybe he expected Galarraga to flip out and he was bracing himself for an argument, but that anger never came. Which brings me to the third thing that stands out about this moment. This face. I'm going to remember this image until the day I die. The grin, the stare, the head tilt. Armando Galarraga doesn't argue the call. He just takes the ball that should have been the final out of the game, and returns wordlessly to the mound. Jim Leyland emerges from the dugout. He's not coming out to fight, not yet at least. Like I said before, this call is much closer in real time than it looks in slow motion, and it's still too early for a quality replay. Leyland and Joyce talk for all of 8 seconds, then they both just move on. Cabrera has some words for the umpire, but that's pretty much it for now. It's like everyone's still in too much shock to be angry. Galarraga continues to pitch from the windup, allowing Donald to take second and then third. Not even the scoreboard operator notices. Trevor Crow hits a ground ball to Inge for the 28th out. Galarraga and Avila embrace, while the rest of the Tigers swarm the officials. Jim Leyland, who's seen the replay by now, is finally ready to fight. He unloads on the ump, who stands there and takes it. The crowd is in a frenzy. Some fans are clapping for their pitcher, but most are hurling boos, insults, and other things that will get this video demonetized if I repeat it here. Galarraga is pulled aside by reporters, and his teammates return to the locker room. Inside, a TV is showing the play on loop. Each one of them is laser focused on the screen, thinking the exact same thing. What the hell just happened? Standard practice is that one reporter is allowed to talk to the umps after the game. Tonight, Joyce is taking questions from anyone and everyone.
No, I did not get the call correct. I kicked the of it. I had a great angle on it. I had great positioning on it. I just missed the damn call. I missed it. I missed it from here to the wall. I thought he beat the play.
The Detroit locker room offers their version of events.
Just saw that it was called safe, and that's when I had a reaction. I went straight to the ground. That's the way it goes.
Well, we're in our mind, that was a perfect game, and he pitched a great game, and that's it. We're taking it as that, and in our mind, that's a perfect game. So,
what is there, 20 in Major League history? 20, and this game's been playing for how long? For me, I probably would have been a little bit more emotions, but he did handle it really well and went and got that last out, and I admire him for that.
I'm so proud of him. I mean, I can't. I probably won't sleep at all tonight.
Back outside, Galarraga is fielding questions of his own. He doesn't focus on the call much, and talks more about Jackson's catch. He tells reporters that this was his best game yet, which we know. Jim Leyland also isn't so mad anymore. He points out that Joyce is just as human as the rest of us, and that's just the nature of the game. He also says that he won't be going to the league to protest the call. As Joyce sits there, Leyland enters the room. He's followed by bullpen coach Jeff Jones, who is Joyce's teammate at Bowling Green. Last in is Tigers president Dave Dombrowski. Joyce finishes his cigarette, then asks Dombrowski if he can see Galarraga. A minute later, the two men are face to face. Struggling to talk through the tears, the umpire offers an apology. The pitcher accepts it and pats him on the back. Armando will arrive home tonight to his puppy Penzona, an English bulldog. He'll take her for a walk before going to bed. Jim will drive to his mother's house in Toledo, Ohio, where he stays whenever he has work nearby. He won't sleep tonight. Joyce is behind home plate for the series finale the next day. When it comes time to submit the lineups, Leyland sends Galarraga out to do it. Almost as quickly as things had gone wrong the night before, the aftermath of the game proves to be one of the most touching instances of sportsmanship people have ever seen. Joyce and Galarraga do interviews, make TV appearances with each other, they even co-write a book together. General Motors gives the pitcher a $50,000 Corvette. Armando Galarraga finishes 2010 with a 4-9 record. It'll be his last full MLB season. He pitches his final game on August 19th, 2012. Jim Joyce calls it quits in 2016, after a 30-year career. Sometimes people make mistakes. It's also true that sometimes those mistakes have long-lasting consequences. So then, how do you square those two facts away? Should Jim Joyce have been punished for the call? No, of course not. But should the call have been overturned? That, I don't know. There have been 24 perfect games in MLB history. there have been 13 perfect games broken up with 2 outs in the 9th inning. In a way, what Galarraga did was half as common as a perfect game. But that's not satisfying to anybody. People at the time begged Bud Selig to overturn the play, but the commissioner did not. It was not a popular decision, to say the least. The governor of Michigan went so far as to issue an official proclamation, vetoing the call. MLB expanded its instant replay system before the 2014 season. This made it the last of the 4 major North American sports leagues to do so by over a decade. Look, I wouldn't be mad if MLB decided to award Armando Galarraga a perfect game. I mean, everybody already treats it like one anyway, so why not make it official? But after spending way too much of my time recently watching, replaying, and reviewing this game, I think that going back and overturning the call is kind of missing the point. A perfect game is special because we say that it is. There are plenty of things in baseball that are much more rare and receive much less attention. Yes, had Joyce gotten the call right, and Armando Galarraga had gotten his perfecto, it would have been the 20th in MLB history. It also would have been the 4th one in less than a year, and the 3rd in just a month. Would we still be talking about the game today if that were the case? Armando Galarraga wasn't a Cy Young winner like Roy Halladay. He didn't have a heart-touching narrative going into the game like Dallas Braden did. If not for the controversy, he probably would have been another Philip Humber. The official video of the last out of Humber's game has 36,000 views. Galarraga's video has 1 million. I also think that there's always been something sadly poetic about this game.
But I'll be very honest with you. The very first thing that hit me right after the call was Armando looking at me, and that look on his face was not a look of anger or, what's going on. He smiled. That captured a lot of what was going on between the both of us at that time.
Perfection is an impossible thing to achieve, and trying to do so is just asking for disappointment. What happened on that night was perhaps the most human thing that's ever happened on a baseball field. And maybe that's worth preserving.